I know I say this with pretty much every episode, but Send in the Crane is a very funny episode of Cheers. This is the 9th episode of the 7th season. This is, of course, directed by the wonderful James Burrows. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And it starts off with some word association with Woody, Frasier, Cliff, and Norm. And the guys get it and they say things that would make sense. Frasier then says thermostat and Woody says bottom. And Frasier tries to work out why Woody could possibly think of the word bottom when Frasier said thermostat. And we get a bit of suspense for a good minute or so as Frasier tries to figure this out. And it turns out the real reason is because Rebecca has to bend over to fiddle with the thermostat and displays her bottom. Fully clothed, obviously. But that was rather sweet, and I feel like Woody knew what he was doing there. And I rather enjoyed it. And then Frasier has an amazing facial expression. After the intro, Lilith comes in and she tells Frasier he was supposed to pick her up from the airport. She'd been to Paris and he'd forgotten, and he was like a deer in headlights when he realised what he'd done. But Lilith seemed in good spirits for Lilith, and she presents him with what Frasier describes as I promise it's funny, as an eye patch. It is, if one can even stretch to this definition, it's underwear, but there's not a lot of fabric. Which Lilith said she got from the Louvre, which I found rather funny. And this scene really amused me. Frasier decides, with some encouragement from the guys, to go into the bathroom and try on the eye patch. And he asks Lilith what he should do with his current pair that he's wearing. And Lilith says, so dryly, save them. I'm so sorry. Save them, I'm making a memory quilt. I love her. I absolutely love her. And Sam then gets a phone call from a woman called Judy. Takes a bit of time to work out who Judy is, but eventually he realises who it must be. And we'll come back to her in a little bit. Rebecca is then annoyed, and we find out it's because that she's being forced to throw a birthday party for one of the children of one of the company's executives, which seems not within her realm of responsibilities, but nevertheless, she decides she has to do it because obviously she wants to impress people in the company, and she needs to hire a clown, and Frasier suggests Woody could do it because Woody is an actor, and Rebecca asks Woody, and he's delighted. He is thrilled to take on this role of a clown, and he runs around saying, I'm a clown, which is just absolutely fantastic. We'll come back to Woody and the clown in a little bit. Judy then enters. Judy Marlowe, played by Sandahl Bergman, and quickly, a couple of minutes later, her daughter Laurie comes into the picture. She's played by Chelsea Noble, and when Sam last saw Laurie, she was just a little kid, and it is quite sweet because Sam clearly must have thought a lot for Judy. It's clear that she was more than just a one-night stand because she and Sam would take Laurie to fun places like the zoo, and it's a rather sweet picture. And it's very clear pretty much immediately that Sam is also interested in Laurie, which I have to say is a little bit awkward. To suddenly lust after somebody you used to help look after when they were a child is a little uncomfortable. Nevertheless, this is where Sam's head's at, and we'll come back to Sam in a bit. We then have Woody's box of clown tricks, and they're playing around with them. Carla is reading out some jokes from the joke book, and then Woody sprays water in Cliff's face. So Norm reads a joke from the joke book, and then Woody sprays water in Cliff's face. So Cliff takes the flower and holds it in front of him. Norm reads a joke from the joke book again, and Carla sprays Woody with water from the drink tap, or whatever liquid is in it. It's a fun scene. Sam then comes back in with Judy, and he then tells Carla he wants to ask Laurie out. And it's awkward because he used to help look after her, but it's more awkward that she still calls him Uncle Sam and Uncle Sammy, which I have to say is a name that really suits him. I quite like it, but it is really uncomfortable. And some people are supporting Sam. There's a lot of support in this episode from Carla, Norm, and Cliff for Sam to do the wrong thing. But Frasier tells him to think of his conscience, to which Sam replies, "You mean like Jiminy Cricket?" Which, yes, Jiminy Cricket is his conscience. And we'll come back to that again. Woody is then in the bar and he gets a phone call that he's actually getting to go on stage for the person he was understudying, so he can no longer be the clown. Rebecca, obviously, really annoyed by this. And what I think is really interesting about this is that Woody did this thing that's, I guess, selfish. He'd made a commitment to Rebecca, but going on stage is significantly more important to him. And I feel like Woody, from a few seasons ago, would have felt so bad for doing that he wouldn't have done it. I'm not necessarily saying it was wrong for him to go on stage instead of being the clown, because that's a really great career opportunity for him. But at the same time, earlier Woody would have felt so guilt-stricken that he wouldn't have done it. And I just think that's a really interesting bit of character development. We've seen this a few times, where Woody, with regards to his performances and his acting, he's done things that are right for him, even if it's not the right thing for other people. We don't really see it in other areas of his life, but ever since he started to talk about acting, it's something that we've seen a little bit more of. And it's nice that Woody has this passion that means so much to him. It's really lovely to see. It doesn't help Rebecca, though. And Frasier basically is roped into being the clown. And he leaves and he goes with Rebecca. And just as Woody is also about to leave after them, he remembers he didn't tell Frasier about the handkerchief trick, which is where there's a handkerchief in his pocket, he pulls it out and his trousers fall down. And underneath his clothing, Woody has on these large boxers that are bright and polka dotty, and obviously to young children, that's going to be very funny. And as soon as Woody said that, my first thought was, Frasier's wearing the eye patch. And Carla says, of course, when Woody asks her if she will phone and tell them about the trick handkerchief. I will say, why would Carla have the phone number for the party? Because it's at somebody's house. But that being said, we did learn a couple of episodes ago that Frasier has a very large phone in a briefcase, although he didn't have it with him. But I feel like there was no way for Carla to reach them anyway, so that's a bit bizarre. We then get to see Frasier dressed as the clown. I love the outfit. He does say, I don't have an act, I'm a psychiatrist. And it seems like it might not go according to plan. Not that there is much of a plan. But then he sprays water in Rebecca's face and the children love it. And Frasier's bouncing around and it's adorable. We're then back at the bar and Sam comes in and he had a dream where both Judy and Laurie wanted him. And again, Carla and Norman Cliff are really encouraging him to go for this, to try and date and or sleep with both of them. And Laurie then comes in, and it does seem like Sam's going to do the wrong thing. And then it turns out that actually Laurie is engaged. And she describes him to Sam as saying he's a lot like a young you, further cementing the fact that Sam's not necessarily the spring chicken that he once was. And Laurie leaves, and Carla and the guys celebrate the fact that Sam almost did the wrong thing, and I feel like all of the work Diane did to help give Sam more of a conscience, it just seems to be unravelling at this point. Not that we don't get any character development with Sam. Sam of today is still very different to Sam of season 1, but we do seem to be taking some backward steps. We then end the episode at the party. It went really well. Everybody's really happy with this, and Rebecca then tells Frasier they had a really close call because Woody phoned them. Again, not really sure how Woody had the phone number. And he explained about the handkerchief, and Frasier was relieved, and he explained to Rebecca that actually he'd taken off the eye patch when he got into the costume because it was irritating him. And now I just have to think he's wearing that clown costume, somebody else's clown costume, without any underwear on. It doesn't sound very pleasant. And problem solved. They got away with it. Frasier didn't pull the handkerchief. And then he gives somebody the handkerchief, and all we hear off screen is a scream. Thankfully, that didn't happen in front of children, so it's not that traumatizing. But obviously for Frasier, that would have been an exceptionally embarrassing situation. But it was a fun way to end things. It's a really great episode. I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't necessarily agree with Sam's actions, but aside from that, it is tremendous fun. Personal highlights, The thermostat, because I had no idea where they were going with that. I've seen the episode before, but my memory is terrible, so I don't always remember little details like that, and it amused me. And just the entire exchange between Lilith and Frasier, I just absolutely, thoroughly adored it. The whole spraying water in Cliff's face, I rather liked how that went. Frasier's performance as the clown, I really thoroughly enjoyed. And Carla saying, of course, just the way she said it. Us as viewers knowing full well there is no way that she is phoning to tell them about the trick handkerchief. It's a really good episode. Really thoroughly enjoyed it. Send in the Crane is, as is usually the case with Cheers, an absolute delight.